Jacksonville area legal aid trying to determine who to hold legally accountable. At issue, the Federal Fair Housing Act and if Eureka Gardens has violated it.
Our investigative reports have exposed families living in squalor. We followed the millions in taxpayer dollars going to the property owner, a company owned by a reverend, and pennies going to residents' repairs. We've discovered property management compelling residents to use an unlicensed contractor. And we've obtained a recent HUD inspection report laced with missing defects compared to defects found during a two-day code enforcement raid by the city. And we could see an administrative complaint filed with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development or the Department of Justice. There's also a possibility of a civil lawsuit filed in state or federal court. News 4 Jax investigator Lindsay Gardner sat down with Jacksonville area legal aid. Lindsay, did they say how soon we could see legal action taken?
Well, Mary, they explained to me that in a systemic investigation like this one, it takes a lot of time because it involves a lot of people and a lot of research. But with Eureka Gardens, they plan to move swiftly because they feel they have the city's attention.
If we can do something to make sure that the residents of Eureka Gardens and the other complexes, Washington Heights, et cetera, have stable, affordable, habitable housing, that's just a basic human right.
Catherine Hansen is one of 3 attorneys with Jacksonville area legal aid that sat down with me to talk about the legal problems building out of our investigation into Eureka Gardens.
We saw the same things that you guys did. We saw the improperly installed, leaky, mold-covered air conditioners. We saw the stairs that were just obviously and visibly unsafe. I smelled gas, as I think you did as well. Just a litany of obvious code violations.
As we were the first to report, 163 units found with code violations out of 400 at Eureka Gardens, or 40% of all the homes there, all discovered during a 2-day intensive inspection led by Mayor Lenny Curry this month. Homes filled primarily with single mothers and young children. The multi-agency sweep came just 1 week after our investigative reports began. Tenants calling News 4 Jax crying foul after this HUD inspection gave the complex a passing score of an 85 in August.
What's the problem with the HUD inspections?
They're apparently not factual.
Legal aid will now investigate exactly how the report was done. I've confirmed with HUD the inspection was done by a third-party contractor. HUD tells me that's common practice.
We're building a case, right? The first thing we do is there a lawsuit? What's it look like?
Jim Kowalski is the executive director of Jacksonville area legal aid. Together, these attorneys say Jacksonville's public housing issues are not limited to Eureka Gardens, but instead widespread across the city.
Our tax dollars are paying for people to run these complexes so that we can provide decent, safe, and affordable housing. Congress made that one of our goals as a nation. And if we're not doing that, and if the people who own these buildings are not putting their money towards that purpose, then yes, we want to know about that.
As we've shown you, the owner of Eureka Gardens is a Tennessee-based Reverend, Richard Hamlet, with the Global Ministries Foundation. He bought Eureka Gardens and 5 other low-income housing properties here in Jacksonville in 2012. News 4 Jax obtained an audit that showed in just 1 year, the Reverend's company pulled in $7 million in taxpayer money to run these Jacksonville properties. We also found this figure. His company spent just $242,757 on maintenance and repairs. That was spread across all 6 aging housing complexes, while his company made more than $500,000 in profits.
How much blame can you place on the property owner, in this case Reverend Richard Hamlet, for the problems you're seeing at Eureka Gardens?
Well, obviously a lot of the problems preceded his ownership, but at the same time, he gets funding from the federal government to maintain those properties. And in my opinion, he's not doing a good enough job.
As part of their investigation, legal aid will also pull past code enforcement violations for Hamlet's Global Ministries Foundation's properties, not only here in Jacksonville, but also in 7 other states where he operates more than 50 other properties to see if there is a pattern of behavior. They tell me they could look to hold Hamlet, property managers, or even inspectors hired by HUD responsible. Now, I have called Reverend Hamlet today for comment, but so far he has not returned my last 8 phone calls.
So what about other entities, Lindsay? Do we know, or anyone else investigating the problems here at Eureka Gardens?
Yeah, a lot of people asking that question here tonight, Ken. Now, I have asked HUD's Inspector General's office in Washington, as well as the state office here. And with every question I have asked on Reverend Hamlet and Global Ministries Foundation, I've gotten the same answer, which is they cannot confirm or deny the existence of an investigation. Usually, though, if there is an investigation by the Inspector General, we do know they remain confidential until or unless they find probable cause.
Thank you, Lindsay.